India in details.
Why is the West still funding Russia's war machine? Why are these European countries still buying Russian gas and crude oil? Why is the European Union still funding Putin's war? Why is the USA still purchasing so much from Russia? Why? Why? My dear Americans, India has chosen independence. It does not want to take orders from the USA. Tell me, if you truly support freedom, how can that sound bad to you? But of course, Trump posted this about India. Read it carefully. Looks like we've lost India and Russia to deepest, darkest China. My dear Americans, as a European, I can tell you this. The USA isn't the center of history. At best, it can be considered a side chapter. The re-emergence of Bharat, that you probably know as India, is making the people with a colonial mentality very, very uncomfortable. They seem to be very jealous of India. After all, to many in the global south, India in freedom, democracy and values seems to be a far better role model than the Western colonial criminal states. And what many in the West are now desperately targeting is India's strategic autonomy, its sovereignty, its independence. Take a look at this. Sinister dreams of breaking India into pieces. Yes, India's sovereignty is now more openly under attack from radicals in the Western world. Now please, stay with me. You don't want to miss this. From Dr. Jaishankar's sharp remarks about Trump to the USA's cruel original character that many have no idea about, this video presents point-by-point, mind-boggling information you've likely never come across anywhere else. Point 1. So to start, let's find out who is truly stealing land and freedom. I am going to try to scan the very soul of the USA like never before. Take a look at this massive monument. This is Mount Rushmore, America's so-called national memorial, a symbol of the American spirit, a so-called shrine of democracy. Even Trump recently posted this. But probably, for Americans, nothing could be more embarrassing than this monument. Yes, the brutal truth is that the USA is still not the rightful owner of Mount Rushmore. Yes, you heard that right. Please listen carefully. In true sense, this is not the USA, even today. So, what is it actually? Well, the monument sits in the area known as the Black Hills. And yes, indigenous peoples are the rightful owners of the Black Hills. So, what happened to their land? Well, after large deposits of gold were discovered in the Black Hills, the US government, acting like a colonial criminal, seized the land that had originally been guaranteed to indigenous peoples. A lot of gold was looted, extracted, and in a major humiliation, the faces of these US presidents were carved onto stolen land that remains sacred to indigenous peoples. Even the colonizers' highest court, the US Supreme Court, has recognized this treaty violation. But has the USA returned this stolen land to the indigenous tribes? The answer, no. Are the indigenous peoples, the rightful owners, still asking for their land to be returned? The answer, yes. And wait. That's not even everything. Who are these 4 US presidents anyway? As described here, 2 slave owners and 2 who were hostile toward Native Americans. And this man, Theodore Roosevelt, well, he hunted animals for fun. I explained that previously in this video. And still, that's not all. It is a monument whose sculptor has been described as a racist man with ties to the KKK. Yes, you heard that right. Ties to the KKK. But of course, as expected, it is not even mentioned on the official page of this government website. Americans, sanitizing history as usual. Dear American nationalists, what a shame. This national monument, your so-called shrine of democracy, is not actually yours. The land was stolen. The site is sacred to indigenous peoples, and it has been desecrated. It's more like an active crime scene. Dear American liberals, you dare preach religious freedom while your national memorial stands carved into a mutilated sacred site? Shame on you. Here, your country openly glorifies colonization. It openly glorifies slave owners. How can anyone claim this monument is a matter of pride? Instead, it looks more like a matter of shame. A genocidal, colonial, criminal democracy, deceitfully fooling the world by posing as a liberal democracy? Seems like moral degradation and moral bankruptcy at their peak. Otherwise, tell me, how can anyone steal sacred indigenous land, carve the faces of colonial oppressors into a mountain where the rightful owners, the native peoples, pray, and then have the audacity to promote this active crime scene as both a tourist attraction and a national memorial? And what a terrible, heartbreaking American system where the colonized must beg for justice in the colonizers' courts. Courts built on stolen land. If there is any shame, if Americans truly love freedom and justice, then please return the stolen land, return the same amount of gold that was taken, return the resources looted with interest. And then the rightful owners, the indigenous peoples, can decide whether they want to build a Holocaust museum here instead. Point 2. Now take a look how the European Union has been funding Russia's war machine. LNG, the European Union, the largest buyer, purchasing 51% of Russia's LNG exports. Pipeline gas, again, the European Union, the largest buyer, purchasing 36% of Russia's pipeline gas. Now let's see how the USA itself has been funding Russia's war machine. Take a look. This is from an official US government website. Trade in goods with Russia. Year 2025. Imports. Year 2024. Imports. Take a look. Year 2023. Year 2022. The US has continued to import Russian goods worth billions of dollars. And don't forget, America was funding Russia even earlier. After Crimea was annexed in 2014, US trade with Russia continued. In fact, imports were extremely huge, such as in 2021. Wow, this is the truth the US cannot run away from. Even Reuters has reported this. So despite all these facts, why do they continue to blame India? Well, this reflects the continued Western practice of twisting history in real time. Is it fair to say that Americans are afraid of competing against other great powers? If so, that sounds like nothing but a loser's mentality. Point 3. The truth is, if India wanted, it could argue that the USA and some Western countries have profited from Indian debts and earned blood money by selling weapons to Pakistan. The truth is that if India wanted, it could also say that this or that Western leader is in bed with a chief of an army that is seen as a terrorism sponsor. But India is India. It is mature. It behaves like a living civilization, not like the West. And the West? Well, from profiting in blood money through arms sales to Turkey, Pakistan, and many dictatorial regimes, the West has a long track record of profiting from wars and human suffering. Dr. Jaishankar said, "We have not had a US president who has conducted foreign policy as publicly as the current one." He added, "That's not limited to India. President Trump's way of dealing with the world, even dealing with his own country, is a very major departure from the traditional orthodox manner of doing so. The American empire shouldn't forget that it was India that dismantled or contributed to the destruction of the British Empire. So, who's next? If India could show England its place, a Western genocidal, colonial, criminal, Christian state, then, if pushed too far, India can also help the USA find its rightful place on the world map. The USA shouldn't forget, empires can fall, but Bharat's Dharma stands tall. India will always have options. It's not just about China and Russia. Even the EU seems more than ready to engage with India. Read this recent article on Euronews. As explained here, the European Union is in a race against time to find new partners. India, the world's most populous country, has emerged as the most desirable candidate. Read this. On paper, India ticks all the boxes. A fast-growing economy, a young labor force, a burgeoning high-tech sector, a strategic geographic location, and a democratic system. So today, the European Union seems very keen to partner with India. But do you see the irony that I see here? Well, for Europe, especially the so-called former colonial powers, I have a message for you. Learn your karma lesson now. Do not forget, it was your European colonialism or your European colonial mentality that gave birth to the USA. Today, when the USA pressures European countries or dictates terms to them, they should remember this. In a way, the USA is your own colonial product, and sometimes it bites you back. Perhaps you thought your colonialism would serve you forever. You were wrong. In the form of the USA, your colonial adventures actually created a hegemon or a bully, depending on how you see it. But it's never too late. Give up your supremacist or racist attitude, partner with India on equal terms, and work together to counter American pressure, economic or otherwise. Yes, dear Europeans, the great country India, despite all the European colonial atrocities against it, is kind enough and can save Europe from the USA, a country that is, in many ways, Europe's own colonial product. Yes, you heard that right. India can save Europe again, just as Indian soldiers in World War II once saved Europe from its own Nazism and fascism. Today, India can save Europe from Europe's own colonial product. Point 4. The empire claims moral superiority while profiting from blood money and while funding Russia's war machine. It talks about freedom while sitting on stolen land taken through genocide. This is not just sheer hypocrisy and dishonesty. It is a systemic denial of history. Dear Americans, we don't need your old world order. What we need is an honest and equitable international partnership. So, will the USA apologize to India? Well, whatever Trump is planning next, India is more than ready for the US president's tantrums. So yes, before anyone dares to lecture India, learn some basics. Dharma was born in India, but the USA was born in debt. When many in the West were learning how to count years, India was already counting yugas. Yes, I am talking about Bharat, a living civilization that wrote the Upanishads when the USA was not even in anyone's imagination. Never forget that India's dharma is eternal, while American colonialism is a crime with an expiry date. Never forget that India's dharma does not bow down to thieves of land and freedom. And yes, India's dharma will outlive Western colonial criminal democracy. And remember, the motherland of my two boys, my Bharat, is a thousands of years old living civilization that does not take lectures from a 250-year-old colonial product. See you again.